Hello, you are listening to the Truth Speaks Network. I'm your host, Dylan Wade, and I'll be joined by Ed Opperman from the Opperman Report to discuss the Millers, the two shooters from um, the two people who shot the cops in Las Vegas. Ed, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here, Dylan. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. So, you said you had information about them that's not being reported on. Can you share that with my audience?
Yeah, we have a ton of information about the Millers that hasn't gotten out in the news. Now, the story that is being played up in the press a couple of weeks ago came out was that these two, they're being called like Patriot Movement type of guys, and that were involved in the Bundy Ranch. See, the Bundy Ranch standoff was this case appeared in Bunkerville, Nevada, up near Mesquite, which is actually a town where we take the tourists sometimes up there to go play basketball, where we've driven up by there. And this rancher named Cliven Bundy had this ranch, and he got into a dispute over water rights and grazing rights. And there was a lot of stuff about corruption and about Harry Reid maybe doing some backroom deals to kind of steal land from him and get him evicted from his land and getting his cattle confiscated. So he called upon the militia and the Oath Keepers to come up there armed and have like a standoff and protect his property and protect him from the federal government coming out there and taking his cows and throwing them off his land and all this kind of stuff. So the Millers were originally portrayed as these kind of fanatics that were so fanatical they were kicked off the Bundy Ranch. Now, it just so happens that down here in southern Nevada, I was asked to first of all, I interviewed Gordon Martinez, who's a 40-year police detective out here in Las Vegas, and he's running for sheriff of Clark County, Nevada. And I saw him do a press conference about the Bundy Ranch. So I says, okay, this guy's interesting. Let me interview him. I had him on my show. And we got to be friends, and I interviewed him about some very interesting corrupt cases that he works on here involving police corruption in Clark County, Nevada here, and that's why he wants to run for sheriff to stamp out this corruption. Now, he's running on the same ticket, the same campaign party, the Independent American Party that Jesse Ventura ran on when he was elected governor. And I believe he's running for president on that same party right now.
He's Ventura?
Yeah, Jesse Ventura.
He's going to be running on the independent. He's going to be running without a party, I believe.
Oh, really? Okay. He's somehow affiliated with this party, though. I couldn't.
Yeah,
tell
he
you
became governor through that party.
Well, then there you go. Right, he became governor through the American Independent Party, or the Independent American Party. So David Laurie Vanderbeek, who's a family therapist out here, is also running for governor on that party as well, the Independent American Party. And I met these two gentlemen again because I was asked to moderate the governor debate out here, to host it and moderate it. And I did that, and then I hosted and moderated the sheriff debate. So I got to know these guys pretty well. So one day we see in the news the story that these Millers had shot these cops. And then they went on to, they said, we're going to start a revolution, and they put a blanket on top of the cops with a "Don't Tread on Me" flag on it, and they pinned a Nazi swastika onto them. And all this stuff we started hearing. And then we started hearing about their connections to Bundy Ranch and their connections to David Laurie Vanderbeek, who's running for governor. And what these Millers had said in their video, on their YouTube video, was that they had traveled, they had left Indiana and moved to Nevada in order to work on the campaign for governor of David Laurie Vanderbeek. So what happened right away was when I contacted these people, because I knew them previously, and I knew this would be an interesting story to cover on my radio show, the Opperman Report. We're on every Friday night at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on freedomslips.com and simulcast on cjmarsradio.com. And then you can find us on YouTube, the Opperman Report, and my blog, the Opperman Report. It's pretty all over the place. So I contacted their manager of this Independent American Party, and I got some behind-the-scenes details about the connections of these Millers coming to Nevada to work on the campaign of David Laurie Vanderbeek. And what happened was they were actually kicked off the campaign because they felt that they were a little flaky and kind of potheads and had trouble, getting along with people and stuff like that. And then we found out that when they were up at the Bundy Ranch, Jared Miller was actually wearing a Gordon Martinez for Sheriff T-shirt, a campaign T-shirt, when he was up at the ranch being interviewed by NBC News. So this all seemed very odd to me, you know. And then I interviewed another guy out here who was named Howard Schiff, who was running for assemblyman, and he was in contact with the Millers when they were up at the Bundy Ranch. So I interviewed everybody to get their side of the story, and we did a 2-hour interview. Right after that interview was completed, I went to upload the MP3 file like we normally do in hundreds of shows and hundreds of interviews I've done over the years. And when we uploaded that file, the file was blank. Okay, it had somehow been destroyed. So we were very upset about this. So what we did was we scheduled with John B. Wells. John B. Wells has a show. It's called Caravan to Midnight, and it's a very popular show. He used to be on Coast to Coast AM and filling in for George Norrie and George Knapp. He was on there every week, and so he has a very, very popular show. His podcast on CaravanToMidnight.com. And me and John B. Wells, we interviewed again, arranged for Monday morning, and we started this interview at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we went on till about 8 o'clock at night. And there was such audio interference with John B. Wells' microphone that we could barely, it was like this. That's how we heard him talking, and blasting into our headsets. So we all had this horrible headache, but we went on, we struggled through this whole thing. We made it to the end of the night. We had so much audio problems that we said, okay, well, let's try it again the next day. And the next day on Tuesday, oh, by the way, too, that the Monday night, all the video was destroyed, and none of that video could be used. So then the next day, we tried it again. We had all kind of scheduling problems with the guests, all kind of interference and stuff. But again, we got that report done on the second day, again working about 6 or 8 hours. And still, to this day, because of the audio problems, the interference, all kinds of... oh, yeah, by the way, that one, too, the next day, the audio file was missing from my Google Drive. I put it on the Google Drive for my technician to pick up and put up on Spreaker and YouTube and stuff like that, and it was missing from that drive. But we still have a copy of that interview, and you can hear all the audio distortion that was going on. Now, what came out in these interviews is a lot of stuff. One thing is that these Millers, who are being portrayed as right-wing conspiracy theorist types involved in the Bundy Ranch and all this stuff like that, we found out that they were also involved in Occupy Wall Street. And they were also campaign. They worked on Obama's campaign. And they were also at the Million Mask March. Okay? And then we find out that when they get here to Nevada, they want to work for Vanderbeek, who's a patriot kind of guy, constitutionalist, and get involved in his Bundy Ranch standoff with militia members and Oath Keepers. So then we find out that they're informants, that the Las Vegas Metro Police Department issued a statement that they had contact with them on at least 2 occasions where they had given witness statements, undercover confidential witness statements to the police department. We also found out that when they were in Indiana, before they came to Nevada, they had also given some kind of confidential witness statements to the FBI over there. So what it's starting to look like to me is that these Millers, they had some kind of charges in Indiana. Now, it's not quite clear what they were, because one day we're hearing that they were threatening somebody at a DMV. Another day we're hearing that he's waving a gun around. Another day we're hearing that it's a drug charge. So we don't know exactly what these charges were, but we know that somehow they were allowed to leave Indiana with no probation or parole following them. And they were all, during that time, involved in political activism on all sides of the political spectrum. Like you got the Occupy Wall Street, sort of like a leftist group, and then you got this Bundy Ranch thing is sort of a right-wing group. So one thing that came out that was very significant that hasn't been reported anywhere in the news, in fact, if this recording survives that we're doing right now, you'll be the one to get the scoop. Okay.
And this is live, so I'll have a audio backup, a video backup, and a YouTube backup. So
yeah, well, hopefully people are listening right now. Okay. But what we found out was through Howard Schiff, who's running for assemblyman out here, is that when these Millers were up at Bundy Ranch, they contacted him and they told him, "Hey, man, you got to get back up here because the federal government is dropping paratroopers down here to fight us, and that they're using
Ed,
drones, and that we're being attacked by drones."
um,
Okay?
Ed,
Now,
I'm sorry, my brother came in. I will be back in 30 seconds.
okay.
All right, we are back.
Okay, yes. So what we were saying was that this hasn't been reported anywhere. Is that Jared Miller called this guy Howard Sheff, who's running for assemblyman here in Las Vegas, and told him that we're under drone attack and the federal government is dropping paratroopers down on our heads over here. And when he heard this, Howard Schiff heard this, he reported to me that he contacted the militia up there and the security department that was up at Bundy Ranch, and they said, no, we don't know anything about this. We're sitting here playing checkers, we're playing cards, there's nothing going on. Now, what's interesting about that is that if you look into this whole situation with the Bundy Ranch and the Oath Keepers and the militia, is there was a big conflict between these two groups that were up there providing security for the Bundys. And the conflict became so bad that they actually pulled guns on each other. And they did a whole bunch of press conferences about this. You can go on YouTube and you can look it up. Bundy Ranch standoff, Oath Keepers, and all this kind of stuff like that, and militia. And the origin of the conflict between the Oath Keepers and the Bundy and the militia was a rumor that was started by a third person, not by Jared Miller, but by a third person about drones, a drone attack being planned to go off at Bundy Ranch. And that came out, that second rumor came out a couple of days after it was reported to me that Jared Miller was spreading that rumor. He was the first person up at Bundy Ranch to start spreading that rumor. Okay, then somehow it got dropped or he got kicked off the ranch or I don't know what. And then they had a second source go up there and start spreading this rumor, and that's what caused all the disruption and pretty much brought an end to the Bundy Ranch standoff because the Oath Keepers actually left. And they left the ranch up there and gave up their standoff up there.
Well, luckily they didn't leave until the fight was over, because seemingly it's over.
Yeah, it seems to be over. I don't know where you stand on Bundy Ranch. It's hard to say. You know, it seems to me that there's a lot of people that want to support these Cliven Bundy and his family. But from my perspective, you know, here's this guy has over $1 million worth of cows up there. He's got millions of dollars worth of land. He's in some kind of financial dispute with the federal government about his bills. And it would seem to me that if I'm going to put my butt on the line to protect somebody, I'm going to do it for some family in the projects over here that are being evicted out of their home that don't have $1 million. These people get evicted every single day. Why don't we should be having militias surrounding their homes and protecting them from being evicted for not being able to pay their bills, rather than some millionaire.
I stand on the side that say say whatever about Bundy as a person. Sure, he might be you might have a point with that, but they're using excessive force. They had snipers, Apache copters, First Amendment zones. They were going too far.
I hear you, okay, but I tell you something else. I've interviewed some people over the years. I don't know, are you familiar with the bombing of the group called Move back in I guess it was the 80s in Philadelphia?
I've heard of it. I don't know much about it.
Well, I had a guest on my show named. I actually met these members back when I was a youngster back in New York City, when I was a political activist on the Lower East Side of New York City with the Yippies, the Youth International Party. And I met the group Move because my group had written an article about them in Overthrow magazine back in around 1979, 1980. So then later on, they were in this home, row houses in Philadelphia, and they got into a dispute with it was a basic dispute, man, over zoning code violations, that they didn't have curtains on their windows and stuff like that. And the police came down, and they were an activist group, and they were out protesting, and they were trying to bring truth about some guys of the Move Nine who were in prison for a long time, and so they were in this home, women and children. There was 11 people were killed, burned alive in this row house, and the Philadelphia Police Department burned down a whole 60 homes in this neighborhood. And then when my guest, Ramona Africa, was escaping through the basement window, they shot at her, tried to kill her escaping from the fire, and then threw her in prison for 9 years, man. She comes out of prison. She comes as a guest on my show. So when you tell me, hey, the Bundy Ranch up there, that somehow these militias were able to do a standoff and stuff like that, the police don't allow that. They don't allow that. They'll burn you alive if you ever try to have a standoff, But somehow these Bundy ranchers were able to get away with it. Another one I interviewed was Cindy Sheehan, who had Camp Casey next door to Bush's ranch at Crawford, Texas. And I said to her, I said, hey, Cindy, what do you think would have happened if while you were having your camp up there to protest this illegal war, what do you think would have happened if you and your guys had some militias and rifles and guns like that? She says, are you kidding me? They would have came in with tanks and killed us all. Okay, because they would have used no excuse to take them down. So how it is that this whole Bundy thing is able to take place, to me, it stinks of some kind of a psyop, some kind of psychological operation.
I can understand where you're coming from on that, and I kind of agree, but either way you look at it, no matter how they were, no matter the planning involved or not, they were using excessive force in that situation, and I think it was just really to make a point that we were tired of this.
I hear you. Okay, they were using excessive force, but I just gave you a couple of examples, like it would move. Okay, where they used really excessive force when there was the slightest bit of resistance.
Oh,
and I
agreed.
think that the Bundys were allowed to get away with way more than other groups are.
I agree with you on that. I hear you on that, and I think it's a shame that nobody stood up for them. But
actually, people did stand up for them. With Ramona Africa, activists in the neighborhood did come down and try and support them. They were arrested, and one of the things that Ramona Africa did 9 years for in prison was inciting a riot. And when they were begging for people to come help them, they were charged with inciting a riot. So I've experienced firsthand a lot of like COINTELPRO kind of a police infiltration of civil rights groups, and the agitation that they'll use and stuff like that, and the kind of tactics that they'll use to disrupt political yeah, right.
political activists and political assemblies and all this different stuff, like you were saying, that they'll try to disrupt it and try to defeat it.
Oh yeah.
They're scared.
You know what? I don't know. I know a lot of you young truthers. Like you all kind of you think, oh, they're scared because everybody's waking up. And I don't see that at all. I think they're very, very happy with the situation they have us in right now, and we're all living as slaves basically under this system, where 1% of the world's billionaires, control everything. And I don't see them as very scared of anything that we're doing at all.
You're not going to get an argument about the living as slaves thing. You won't get one out of me, but I only think they're scared because you've noticed the rapid increase in their activity. It's getting more and more. They're pushing harder and harder every day.
Well, give me an example. Like what?
Well, before we'd only have a few false flag attacks every couple of years. I think we've had one or two in the past year. Not this year, 2013.
Okay, yeah, I hear you, man. About it's interesting. I had a guest on my show named Dave McGowan, okay, and he wrote a couple of books. One book is called Program to Kill, and about serial killers and historical serial killers and stuff like that. And he has a whole thread that he can web between all these famous serial killing events that are tied to satanic cults. And another book he's just written recently that he's out on a book tour with right now is called Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. and he describes about how the whole '60s movement and culture and clothing and style of music was a government psyop operation.
Mm.
And one of the things he said to me on my show, because he's into this false flag stuff too, just like you were. And one of the things he said to me was, he goes, "Hey Ed, man, have you noticed that back in the '70s and the '80s, there were all these serial killers? You had the Son of Sam, you had the Night Stalker, you had the Hillside Strangler, you had all these people, and they had these cartoon names. They were kind of like Bill, and they were on the news every night. These big stories. Oh, the Hillside Strangler's out there. He found another victim. Oh, the Night Stalker is going to, beat breaks and it's had stories all day long on the news, right? When's the last time you heard of a serial killer out there? Give me a name.
I haven't heard of. Are we talking about mass killers or a serial killer?
No, right. No, not those school shootings. We're talking about serial killers the way they used to do it, where they would go out and they would find victims and leave their bodies and leave notes on there to taunt the police. And his whole...
I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
It just stopped, man. What happened? It stopped. What made it stop? Not only did it stop, but they got these TV shows now, where they got this these TV shows where the FBI goes out and they have a plane and they go from town to town investigating these local serial killers. But there are no serial killers anymore. It stopped. But now we have these other killers. We have these mass shooters who go to school and do mass shootings of people over there and stuff like that. And you're right, man. It's suspicious. The serial killers are suspicious. The stories don't add up. The public stories don't add up to what we've learned from years of investigation. And these school shootings and these mass shootings, also, something's fishy there. There's a lot of fishy stuff there. I know you're going to be doing a show with Victoria, the host of Teen Truth, on Saturday afternoons on cjmarsradio.com, and you're going to be doing a show with her about the Roger Elliott, correct?
Yeah, the Santa Barbara shooting.
Oh, yeah, fascinating stuff there.
See, I have a theory about all these shooters, and my facts may be a little off, but can you correct me if I'm wrong? There were 3 CIA ops that link all these psychopaths together. Operation MKUltra,
okay,
Operation Northwoods, and Operation Gallia.
I'm not familiar with Operation Gallia.
I'm not very familiar with that one either, but if I'm not mistaken, somebody in the chat room correct me if I'm wrong on this. Galileo was an operation to get drugs that make people crazy out to the public. This was declassified in the 70s.
Very interesting, and I agree with you. There definitely seems to be that pattern there with the MK Ultra, the mind control projects, but also too, it seems to be because it's trauma-based mind control. And what I've noticed too is there's a pattern with these satanic ritual abuse victims, where they create the trauma and then they can hypnotize you and brainwash you into doing whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look, even in Disney movies, right, that there's the trauma-based mind control on a much smaller, subtle basis. Like in the beginning of Bambi, Bambi's mother dies. The whole the whole audience is set into trauma. You're in shock for a couple of seconds, and then you got da 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 da, all this hypnotic music and cartoons, and kind of hypnotizing you down through this story here for a dramatic effect.
Yeah.
So we know these things they work, and we've seen it with these assassins that are out there that all seem to fall back into these same groups and patterns.
Well, I think trauma-based hypnosis came into play on September 11th. I agree with you. That was the greatest hypnotic experiment ever conducted.
And there's a lot of... I had a guest on my show named William Ramsey, who he would do your show too. He's a cool guy. You'd like him. And he wrote a book about the occult and 9/11 and Freemasonry. And if you read his book and you listen to his theories, it seems that the planning of the 9/11 destruction of those buildings goes back hundreds of years, and has been predicted in films and movies and literature going way back. There's this whole symbolism of the Twin Towers throughout history.
The earliest symbolism I could find, because I kind of dug into that because I had heard about the
Yeah.
symbolism of 9/11. The earliest thing I could find was in 1974. Um, I forget what show, but it was someone crushing the Twin Towers together.
Oh yeah. Well, it could have been 74 because I believe the towers were built in 76. Um,
It was sometime in the 70s. I can't
yeah, right.
remember the exact year. 76 sounds correct.
Well, yeah, the whole thing with the World Trade Center bombings is just so bizarre. And but a good source of it to look into the occult symbolism and ritual stuff that went on in that, because I believe it was a ritual sacrifice of 3,000 people. And you get into the whole William Ramsey in his book. He's a fascinating guy.
Well, I don't know if it was so much a sacrifice as it was a experiment, an experiment to see if trauma was good for control. And I think that the occult discovered that it worked. The cults and the elites discovered that trauma-based hypnosis works tremendously. To this day, it still works.
Oh yeah, and it's just there's even in ancient France they have these underground catacombs, and on paintings on these underground catacombs in France, they have the whole thing about how trauma-based mind control works and how you can shock the people, molest the kids when they're young, and cause shock in people's lives, and then you can hypnotize them and manipulate them. And it's on cave paintings.
Mm. Uh,
So they've known about this a long time.
Agreed. And the other interesting part of it is the Sandy Hook debacle. How trauma works there as well.
Yeah, that's a bizarre story. You know, there's some there's a lot of strange stuff in that case too, and just the fact that there's no funerals, no bodies, you know, and this bizarre thing that oh yeah, well we took the bodies out there in the middle of the night, the coroner's office. Uh, there's a lot of strange stuff with the Sandy Hook story that I find hard to swallow.
And from my experiences, when you try to break that hypnosis, trauma-induced hypnosis, they fight back.
Yeah, some people get very upset when you try and explain this stuff to them, and they don't react very well. But I got to tell you something. I've met people again in the truther community, people who believe with all their might that they're truthers, and I'll say to them, hey, listen, man, you know, because you hear about these stories about how well they're going to come knocking on our door, and we're going to have martial law is going to come down the pike in a year or two, and then we're going to have FEMA camps. It's coming. What they're training us to do is to wait for something to happen. What is happening right now, the conditions we live under right now today are intolerable, and we should all realize they're intolerable. We should be standing up and speaking out and fighting back right now, not waiting for some future FEMA camp or some future gun grab or all this kind of stuff like that. And I'll hear these people, these truthers on the radio, who I believe are trauma-based mind controlled, because they're triggered by this stuff. And everything they see is right away. Oh, it's a false flag. Oh, right away, it's a crisis actors, and right away, oh, it's a gun grab. They're going to take our guns. This was done so they can take our guns away from us. Okay, but the thing is that, and what they'll do is they'll say, oh, and all we got to do is we just got to raise our vibrational frequencies. We need to ascend to a higher level of consciousness, and all this is going to go away, and we're going to win. It's not going to go away by that. Okay, I believe in prayer. I believe in Jesus Christ and prayer. Okay, but I tell you, we have to resist as well. We have to resist whatever every bone in our body. We can't continue to just sit by and watch them get away with this when we outnumber them 300 million to 1.
And on that note, I completely agree. But on another note, I do believe in these FEMA camps. I've seen them with my own eyes.
Okay, and then what I'm trying to tell you, okay, man, since the 80s, okay, before the internet, okay, how we used to do this kind of stuff. I've been on this stuff, dude, since the 70s when I was in high school, okay? We used to talk about the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderbergs and all this. I knew about this stuff way back then, before the internet. The only way we could get this word out is we would print our own newspapers. okay, and give them away and sell them to people, mail them to people. And then after that, when videotape first came out, VHS videotape came out, and there was like the Patriot movement and the movement of resistance. We would mail these videotapes from home to home. You'd mail it, you'd watch it, and then you'd mail to the next guy on the list. And that's how we would disseminate this information. Okay? And I'm telling you, way back then, they were saying, oh, the martial law of the FEMA camps is right around the corner. Okay, this is 1980. You weren't even born yet. Okay, so I've been living for a long time listening to how all this stuff is right around the corner and coming down. And the trick that I see them pulling right now, what I see them doing, is telling us to sit back and wait. Stockpile your food, stockpile your bullets, stockpile your guns. Dig a hole in your backyard to hide in a hole in a bunker and prep. Okay, what are we prepping for? The prepping is over, man. The time to resist is right now.
I agree there. And look, I don't know when they're going to do this. I don't want to wait till they start. We need to stop them before, because once it happens, it's too late.
Yeah.
So, but I do believe in their existence. I just don't know when it'll happen.
It's interesting because I don't know if you've heard the story about these kids that are being sent over the border. These little 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, and now they're being taken to the FEMA camps. And when it first came out about the FEMA camps and how the budget and how Halliburton got the contract to build the FEMA camps, the response came back was, well, this is for in case of we have to make sudden arrests of illegal aliens. This is where we'll put them.
Wait, they're going to start arresting them?
Well, yeah, I know, right? Meanwhile, we do everything we can to bring illegals in here. We want them, in this country for whatever reason. And now, all of a sudden, how conveniently that suddenly we got warehouses full of little 7, 8-year-old kids that need a place to stay. Oh, well, we got these FEMA camps. We'll put them over there. Now, a thing we just found out that came to me from a source, like a whistleblower source, someone who I trust, tells me that she's sitting at the bus stop and she starts talking to this young Guatemalan woman, and the Guatemalan woman is telling her, oh, those kids, the reason how they get in here is that the U.S. government goes to small towns in Guatemala and I forget the other country, I think it was El Salvador, and pays for these kids. They give them money to come in here to the United States. Now, I find that very interesting because why would this woman make this up? She has no reason to make this up. And there's no logical way that these kids are getting all the way from Guatemala through Mexico. Kids, you hear these stories about how these coyotes, take them over the border. But it's way more elaborate than that. There has to be some kind of mechanism getting these kids up here to conveniently fill up FEMA camps.
Oh, yeah, and it makes you wonder, because we know they've been built. The contracts are there. It makes you wonder. They say they're going to use it for a crisis or when they have to make arrests, like you had said. But regardless of the kids being there are hundreds of these camps. I don't think that enough people are going to come over the border to detain all of them. Lost my train of thought. To fill the camps up.
Yeah, I agree with you. But on the other hand, too, like, why would they want to bother? If we're such obedient little slaves right now, and all we care about doing is sitting back, drinking our beer, and watching the TV, and we just do. We're so obedient. We gotta have our credit score has to be perfect. Oh, we're just kissing their butts, man. As they make us jump through hoops like fools. And but they need camps to put us in. The camps is so much harder work. What do they need camps for? Just give us more TVs. Give us free TVs. Give us those EBT cards and get the free food, and and we're perfect, happy, dumb, stupid slaves doing whatever they want. So I really don't see the need for camps. And I don't see it. What do they want to imprison us for?
I don't.
They just kill us, but give us a disease and kill us off.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I've seen them with my own eyes. I don't know what their purpose is, but I mean, it's up in the air at this point. We don't have any. The only solid evidence we have that they exist and that they're for internment is the military documents released in 2013. Relocation, and internment. It was a bill passed in I believe the NDAA. It was passed along with.
Right, and it's very important, like you said, that we just observe and report. We do our investigation, we gather the information, we put it down, hopefully into some kind of a report, a document, either on a blog, or on a video, or something that we document the information that we found without jumping to conclusions, you know. And it seems to be now that a lot of the truthers they've just fallen into this pattern. Everything is a false flag with crisis actors to take our gun. Boom, 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 boom. And when I see that happening over and over again, and we're falling for the same little repetition pattern there, I see that there's something wrong. Something's going on.
I agree. I get frustrated when everything is a false flag operation.
Right.
Things happen, and but the best way to see if it's a false flag attack or not, I think there's a very simple method. Is it being overly politicized, and is it being used to push an agenda?
It does seem that there are certain mass shooting type events, or certain crisis events, that the media is prepared for, and that they roll it out, and they have the witnesses, and they have backstories on witnesses and victims and stuff like that, and that there's other stories that just rise up and crash down overnight,
Mm-hmm.
like the Miller story. Pretty much, this should be a huge story. You got two police officers are killed, an innocent bystander was killed. There's been other police shootings here, other police deaths here in Las Vegas, and it's on the news 24 hours a day. But this one here is kind of, they got one news conference. They say, oh, they committed suicide. Oh, we got to take that back. The next day there's another news conference. Another cops did kill him. So there's all kinds of, you can kind of tell the difference. You're right, when it's staged and they're ready to go, and when they're not ready to go and roll out their story.
When I had brought up those 3 CIA ops, I was bringing those up in the context of these are the cause for many of the false flag attacks. Those 3 ops are basically their instruction manual. MK Ultra and Gallia provide the people, the manpower. Adam Lanza, James Holmes, Dvoskar Tsarnaev. All these people, I believe, were targeted by these 2 projects. And
yeah, the CIA connections to those Boston bombers is unbelievable, because the uncle, Russolin, who comes out, guy's married to a CIA, and then I downloaded his LinkedIn profile. It was just so pathetically, CIA cover, every place he worked as a consultant, it was just amazing.
Tamerlan was asked to be an FBI informant.
Oh, really? See, I didn't hear that. Well, you heard about how the FBI shot one of his friends and his college roommates.
Yeah, they had interrogated him for 6 hours, and then
Accidentally shot him.
They didn't accidentally. The official report is that he got aggressive and they shot and killed him. But
really? Okay.
But they got a written confession first.
Well, sure. It always works that way.
We're gonna. Yeah. Okay.
And then the 2 FBI agents, the ones who had been to these young men's apartment and interviewed them there, fell out of a helicopter and died.
Yeah, and then you can go further than that and read about Tamerlan, the older brother, who had died. He according to a couple of the articles I've read, believed in mind control. So.
Oh, really?
I think all these things have some sort of a link. The Boston bombing, we can almost prove was planned.
Yeah, and even, did you know that the finish line was right there at the head of the Masonic Temple?
Did you know that there were Navy SEALs and FBI and DHS agents spotted all over the marathon location?
Yes, some of that's
Just
not too
hours
suspicious
before.
to me, because I know that from my contacts with NYPD, that there's a lot of that. There's a lot of agencies will come and go and be involved in stuff. I know a lot of it's made up about those craft services mercenaries walking through with their backpacks and stuff like that. But supposedly, the story with that is that they had radiation detectors. and they were hired to go and look for radiation,
Mm.
which is a possibility because I know they do that as well. They even do that on commercial airlines. They'll make a walkthrough and with a radiation detector, and on trains as well.
I believe that's a strong possibility that it was just it, that it was just them looking for radiation. But there is so much evidence that we can point to when talking about the Boston bombing, and almost prove that it was either faked or perpetrated by the government as trauma-based hypnosis.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of the victims as well, with their injuries, seems to all be staged as well. But you never know what's behind it, though.
No,
Yeah,
you can't be sure.
yeah.
But
You can never be sure.
what I think we can be sure of though is Dovascar and Tamerlan were either A, framed or B, put up to it by someone else.
Yeah, yeah. And it would seem that these two FBI agents, because their apartment was right around the corner where that bombing took place. And right around the corner from where the police officer shooting took place, and this whole business about them jumping in that car, carjacking that guy, and confessing to him everything, and then okay, drop us off here, and then not killing him. There's just so much bizarreness to that. Now, how could it be that these two FBI agents that are just working guys? Unless I go to conventions and stuff, and I meet guys that are retired FBI, because I'm a private investigator, right?
Yes.
Yeah, for my living, I'm a private investigator and a digital forensic investigator. So I go to conventions and stuff like that. I deal with a lot of retired FBI and retired police officers and stuff, and they're just working guys. They're not all involved in this big giant conspiracy. Half of them, some agree with us, the stuff we're saying. But here
Oh.
you got these two working FBI agents who actually went to this home based on a tip from the Russian government, and they interviewed these two guys, saying, "Hey, these guys are possible terrorist suspects," and they interview them, And then suddenly, not even a year later, there's a bombing that goes off right around the corner from that house. Wouldn't these two FBI say, "Hey, gee whiz, you know what, man? We were over there. We were right there, man. We talked to some guys. They were up to something, And they would say, "Hey, let's look at the videos now with the pictures on TV. Those are the guys. The whole case should have been solved if those are the guys. Like an hour after their pictures went up on TV, because you had two FBI agents who've been to their house." Yeah, like you got to look at stuff, just with common sense. These are guys just like you and me doing a job. Hey, I remember them, But no,
Yeah.
it goes on for a week. No one can figure out who's behind it, what's going on.
I don't think that I don't think every agent is involved. I think very few, actually. Realistically, to pull off something on such a, I guess you could say, small scale as the marathon bombing, you would probably only need half a dozen to 2 dozen agents to pull it off.
Yeah, you don't need a big team to do something like that. And if you look back in history, it seems to be the same group of guys, this Operation 40 guys, who were behind JFK, they were behind Watergate, they were behind the Bay of Pigs, and the same thing over, and all the drug smuggling that went on at the Mina Airport with the Clintons. By the way, I had some great guests on about that whole case too, man. I had Daniel Hopsicker, who lived in the home with Barry Seal's widow, and they lived together there while he was investigating this case. And he found that picture that now you see all over the place of the Operation 40 guys with Frank Sturgis and them down in that Mexican nightclub, where you see all the assassins. The guy who killed Che Guevara, you see him in there. You see Frank Sturgis, the Watergate burglar, who, by the way, Frank Sturgis confessed to my good friend and my other guest, Detective Jim Rothstein. Detective Jim Rothstein arrested Frank Sturgis, the Watergate burglar, in New York City when Frank Sturgis was on his way to assassinate Marita Lorenz, who was the girlfriend of Fidel Castro. And he was on, and they caught him. They got tipped off that he was on his way to kill him. They caught Frank Sturgis and had him in holding. Okay, and the story he told me is that he gave Frank Sturgis an old-fashioned polygraph test, which is where you take your gun and you stick it in his mouth and you ask him, "Hey, tell us what happened." And Frank Sturgis confessed to him that he was one of the shooters of JFK.
See, I don't know if he was. I don't think we'll ever know because somebody held at gunpoint will say anything.
Well, I know, okay, but the thing is, okay, Frank Sturgis is one of the toughest guys you'll ever meet in your life, and he's not that impressed having a gun in his mouth either. But I got to tell you this, okay, Detective Jim Rothstein is a guy. He's a mayor now in Minnesota, and he's a guy who I respect his opinion and his experience. And when he comes to me and says, "Hey, I arrested Frank Sturgis. I know Frank Sturgis. We talked for a long time," and I believe him. I gotta put my bet on what Jim Rossing's telling me.
See, yeah, I believe a lot is wrong with the JFK assassination,
Oh, forget it.
more than people are willing to let on. But that could be a 10-hour show.
Oh yeah, the all the stuff involved in that. It never ends. When I was a kid, I was about your age. I was 1979. I was in high school. A friend of mine wrote the book Coup d'etat in America, and he was one of the yippies in New York City, like I was. And he's the first guy to come up with those three pictures of the three tramps and connect them to the Watergate burglars. Before that, it had never been done. And
Mm. If I'm not mistaken, I could be entirely mistaken. Those people in the picture were never fully identified, as far as I know.
they've never been fully identified, but even on his deathbed, E. Howard Hunt confessed to his son, St. Vincent Hunt, that he was one of those three tramps in that picture. And he confessed to his involvement with the JFK shooting. And there's a video of it. And it's very interesting because I talked
Hmm.
to St. Vincent Hunt about coming on my show, and suddenly he just fell off the radar and won't even email me back. He's just disappeared. And I don't see him doing anything anymore. He's not on TV. He's not on radio. He's not doing anything.
Yeah, myself and um, Chuck Ocelli, who's sort of a regular contributor to the show, are working on a mini doc on JFK.
Oh, very good. You should talk to my guy, Jim Rothstein.
Yeah, we did part one where we broke down Lee Harvey Oswald's past.
Okay.
Uh, we're still trying to get part two set up.
Well, you know who's available to talk to too? Josephine Baker, that was Lee Harvey Oswald's girlfriend. She's out still around now doing radio shows. And another good guy who would talk to you, who I think would be a good guest for you, is a guy named Oldie Dumagard.
Who's he?
He's written some. His website is called Light on Conspiracies, and he's a researcher. And it's fascinating. He did all this research on an assassination. I forget the country. It was like Denmark or something like that. And a fascinating connection in that story was that one of the witnesses who was arrested and they were trying to set him up as the patsy in this assassination over there. Later on, came out that this guy, he was called like the House of Horrors, where he had his daughter hidden in a basement, and he got his daughter pregnant, and they lived down in his dungeon, down in his home. Years later, it's just a fascinating. You can't call it a coincidence, that here's this guy with this kind of lifestyle, that he has a prisoner. He's raping his own daughter as a prisoner in his home for years, 40 years. She was held captive there, and somehow he's connected up with this assassination of the prime minister over there. Just a fascinating story, and he's into all this stuff, and he's into the false flag stuff like you are as well.
I'm after the truth only. But there were a lot of assassinations in the 60s. You got Kennedy, King, I believe Malcolm X was in the 60s.
Sure.
And I'm sure John Lennon. I'm sure I'm missing some more, but
Medgar Evers, John Lennon, Che Guevara was assassinated. They had him held prisoner down there in Bolivia, and one of the Operation 40 guys that you could see in that picture, along with Barry Seal and the boys, shot him, killed him, cut his hands off, and saved the hands. As proof. And then years later, they were talking about he still had the hands in his freezer, with the hands of Che Guevara. Saved them for years.
I don't. And then I'm expected to believe that they're all lone nut scenarios.
No, they all have intelligence connections over and over,
Yeah.
and yeah, and there's always these groups, of these groups, man, the same bunch of guys over and over again, that were involved in everything from Watergate and then you can get even more involved. They were involved in Son of Sam. They were involved in Charlie Manson murders, and even I'm doing my own research into the involvement with this same group of shadowy drug smugglers and killers and stuff like that surrounded the O.J. Simpson trial. Okay, and that as there's so many people that you see in this O.J. Simpson trial were involved with the Church of Scientology, and an offshoot of the Church of Scientology is the Process Church of the Final Judgment, which was an overtly satanic cult that was involved in the Manson killings and also in Son of Sam. And is a cast of characters that thread their way back all around this O.J. Simpson trial, which was a sort of a trauma-based mind control. It's one of these big historical events that changed society and changed our attitudes and changed our belief. Before that, you didn't say the N-word. You just said the N-word. But then during that trial, they had a whole thing where, oh, you're not allowed to say this word anymore. It's so harmful. Oh, we can't say this word. Only say the N-word. There's no other word we only use a letter for. So it's just bizarre things that came out of there. And I just had a guest on my show, Steven Singular, who's a fascinating guy, and he has all this information about Mark Furman and Furman's connection to a group called the Order, which was a Nazi right-wing group that actually was running around the country doing assassinations as well.
The only thing with and I'm sorry to jump back to this, the only thing with the Kennedy assassination and the E. Howard Hunt confession,
yeah,
I could say anything on my deathbed. I mean,
yeah. But the difference is that we know E. Howard Hunt. We know he was CIA. We know he was involved in the Bay of Pigs, and we know he was involved in Watergate. So he had connections all over this kind of stuff. And, then you got a picture of him right there that looks just like him. And there's other corroborations as well.
One of the three people in that picture, that we were discussing, kind of look like three people that would later become elected officials or appointed officials.
Well, like who else? Who do you think they look like?
I forget who, but it was under I believe they were appointed under the Nixon administration.
Well, yeah. They look like the Watergate burglars, But also too, there's some theory too that they look like Woody Harrelson's father, who's in prison right now for being an assassin, and it's also alleged he might have been one of the shooters there in Dealey Plaza. I did a special show with Ole Demigard and James Fetzer. We did a special Saturday afternoon show one time. They had audio recordings of this woman who was a witness, and she grew up in a family with a group of assassins that have been involved in all kinds of these assassinations and the cleanup. You know how, like, at the end, how they talk about how all the witnesses also get bumped off and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that she knew the guys that were part of that cleanup crew that were going around bumping off the witnesses and stuff.
Mm.
And it's so funny because the way they explained it, it's like, you'll get a guy who's a truther, he's a whistleblower, and he says, yeah, they shot at me, and and they missed me by an inch, and they ran my car off the road, and I lived. And you say, well, if someone's coming after you to kill you, they're gonna miss, these are professional killers. But the way they explained it is that, yeah, but it's just a job to these killers. So yeah, one day I may shoot at you, and the next day I'm running another guy over. Then I got to go to dinner. It's not like they're running around killing people all the time, And sometimes they miss. Okay, we'll come back and we'll get them in a couple of months. It's just fascinating.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of strange events that go on during these false flag operations. That's really another way you can tell if it's a false flag. Strange inconsistencies will always occur when a false flag is reported on.
Right, but again, sometimes even in cases that we know are not false flags, strange things and strange coincidences occur. So you can't go by that either. You just got to observe and report, and then let people make up their own minds. I really have a difficulty like trying to come up with a conclusion for people, and I'd rather let them find it on their own.
Yeah, people just need to think for themselves.
That would help, yeah.
That's the goal. I think that's the goal of any show, to make people think for themselves. Do you want to go back to the Millers?
Well, you know what? I could talk about anything. The Millers are another story. One thing is we were talking about how these stories seem to be controlled. I've had a lot of experience with these big, major media news stories. Like I was involved in that Tiger Woods case where it became a 24-hour news story. And one of the things I found in experiencing that behind the scenes is that things will come up in the morning that are going to should be breaking news, that night should be major stories in the news, but somehow during the day it's silenced and it's covered up, and the next day nobody wants to talk about it. It never happened. It's gone. It's over. And I saw the same thing too when I was involved in the Charlie Sheen case, where he attacked my client Capri Anderson in that hotel room in New York City, and it was a 24-hour news cycle. What's going on with Charlie Sheen? Oh, all day long and all night long, but still information comes out during the daytime that I'm behind the scenes. I know is coming out. It's true, but it gets covered up and it gets buried. And I've seen this over and over and over again. And the story that I had with Todd and Sarah Palin, where my client came to me and described how she was involved in prostitution in Alaska, and that Todd Palin was one of her clients. So she took 4 polygraph tests for the National Enquirer when she sold her story to the National Enquirer. She passed all 4 polygraph tests administered by ex-FBI agents. And, I met her, I talked to her, and I believe she's telling the truth. But that story was totally covered up and totally suppressed, even by Nick Broomfield when he did that documentary that everybody said was so brutal towards Sarah Palin. He mentioned Shelley Tripp, my client, in that documentary, but still he had his own agenda that he wanted to get out, and this was an amazing story, because later on my client also claimed that not only was Todd Palin one of her clients for this prostitution, but that he was sending her other clients, and she would have to report back to him on the activity that she had with these other clients. And why did he want that information? Was it for blackmail? Was it for compromising witnesses or political influence? Who knows? We don't know. But what we do know is that this whole story, her story, was later corroborated on many levels. Just by the way that the police refused to turn over evidence to us from the police evidence locker. They destroyed evidence. But what we later found out was when the Secret Service went down to Colombia and got into the same trouble down there by visiting a prostitute, a bordello, and not paying the prostitute, and made major news, that she knew who that Secret Service agent was. She was able to tell me who he was. No one else knew who he was. And she told me, Ed, I know it's him because he did the same thing to me. And he used to protect Sarah Palin here in Alaska. So later on, this escalated into a congressional hearing. We had a congressional investigation and a congressional hearing. I prepared exhibits for it, and I collected affidavits for it, and I did a forensic examination of a credit card machine for it. And it came out in that hearing that, yes, it is true that there was other misbehavior and other crimes by Secret Service agents. So her information was corroborated through this congressional investigation. But you don't hear that story at all. It's never talked about.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no one knows it. And you'd think it would be a major story. It's a juicy story, right? It has all the ingredients, sex, and prostitution, political, but it's not the narrative that they want to sell us. It's not the storyboard that they're putting on our news every night that they want us to follow along with. Again, like we were talking about, that trauma-based mind control, where they have their agenda and they have their story, and it has a beginning and a middle and an end, and it ends the way they want it to. And when you throw a monkey wrench in this story, it just doesn't get covered.
Yeah, it's a shame too. Operation Mockingbird was a big part of all of that.
Yeah, which one was Operation Mockingbird?
The one where the U.S. government poured billions of dollars
Right, to,
into.
to, to, to pay off the newspaper reporters and stuff, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I just had Cynthia McKinney on my show, the former Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney, and she ran for president too as well. And she was just on my show, and she did her thesis, her master's thesis, just recently on the church committee hearing and the House Assassinations Committee, the House subcommittee hearings on assassinations. And one of the things that came out in that's where Operation Mockingbird came out, was in those church committee hearings, which, by the way, were on TV when I was a kid. When I was your age, 15, 16 years old, on the afternoon, you'd turn on your TV and you'd watch these dramatic, House assassinations committee hearings. Now everything that goes on in Congress is all showbiz. And you don't get any real fact-finding hearings like you did back in those days, like Watergate and the church committee hearings.
yeah. All of these, the CIA just needs to be abolished, honestly.
Well, yeah, it seems to be like a rogue agency that's running around, dealing drugs and smuggling drugs, and and we know that these assassinations are still continuing now, because you have Hugo Chavez did a speech about how odd it is that every Latin American leader who's anti-U.S. and he left out Haiti, the president of Haiti at the time, all seemed to come down with cancer and brain cancer and stuff. And one of I'm involved with a man named Gene Chip Tatum, who's former CIA, and he was part of that Iran-Contra. He worked for the CIA, and he smuggled drugs during Iran-Contra, and he received a pardon by George Bush. Go ahead.
The Iran-Contra was dealing weapons for hostages, I thought.
No, but it also involved bringing those weapons down to Nicaragua, to the rebels in El Salvador and Nicaragua, the Contras, and then bringing back up cocaine to the Mena airport in Arkansas.
Right.
Yeah.
The CIA, are they ever up to anything good?
You know what? I can't recall if they've ever done anything this year, right? Anything that was ever any good. No, I don't recall anything decent coming out of the CIA. You're right.
Operation Manhattan.
What was that?
I'm forgetting the specifics, but I believe it was a bombing they were going to do on U.S. soil in New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the documents were leaked out before they could do it, so I think that was in the 80s.
Yeah, I don't recall that one, but I tell you, a lot of people forget about the first Twin Tower bombings, the World Trade Center bombings, where these guys drove a truck into the basement of the World Trade Center and set off a bomb in the parking garage.
Yeah, how come that's never reported on?
It was up until the second bombing, but the first bombing, you're right, it's hardly ever reported. And it turned out that almost everybody involved in that operation were undercover informants for the FBI and for the CIA. And there was one guy who was banging down the door at the CIA, at the FBI down there, telling them, "Hey, this is supposed to be an undercover operation with fake bombs, but they were using real bombs, guys. We got to do something about this. We have to stop it." And another fascinating thing too is again, we were talking about how it's such a small world. Because the guy who wrote the book Coup d'etat in America was a yippie. He was also part of the Jewish Defense Organization, and they used to protest in New York City, for pro-Israel, demonstrations against these Arab guys. All these guys that were involved in that first World Trade Center bombing were all guys that were known. These were well-known New York City activists, pro-Muslim, Arab guys and anti-Israel protesters that were involved in other things, like the shooting of Meir Kahane and the shooting of a busload of young, what is that called? Jewish school, Hebrew school is called a shul, I guess you call it. I think there's a word for it, but anyway. But they were in their bus going to school, a bunch of these young kids with the yarmulkes and the curls, Hasidic kids. And he got so infuriated just seeing them that he shot up the bus with a machine gun. You know, and so these guys who were behind that whole World Trade Center bombing, the first one with the truck, were all known. These were well-known characters. They were involved in other shootings. They were involved in other protests and all kinds of. It's impossible. And then it turns out that they were all FBI informants as well, and they were all surrounded by FBI agents and COINTELPRO and double agents, provocateurs. But nothing to see here, folks. Just look the other way. Move along.
Yeah, watch my right hand. Here's the entertainment stuff that doesn't affect your life one way or another.
Yeah.
And then here's this big attack that happened that we're not going to report.
Yeah, and usually the stuff that they want us to watch are people like Lindsay Lohan and Britney Spears having a mental breakdown and this kind of entertainment stuff, And then when you look into that, they're from bred from Disney childhood into this MK Ultra kind of mind control project for their whole life. They're bred to do this, And then they're created as celebrities before us, and then they're created to melt down in front of us and to get divorces and to shoot their wives and whatever,
Yeah, but the entertainment stuff it bothers me that it's got the 24-hour news cycle. But still.
Yeah, we didn't have that 24-hour news cycle when I was your age. We had three stations, ABC, NBC, and CBS. There was no cable TV, and it wasn't 24 hours, that's for sure. But I had such a hunger and a thirst for news. I would listen to the radio. I'd read like 5 newspapers a day. But back in those days, you could get real news. There were people on the radio like Mae Brussell. Have you listened to all of Mae Brussell's work?
I have not.
Okay, you got to make a study of that, man. Mae Brussels is incredible. She's done incredible work. She's dead now. She's passed on, but she's a national treasure, one of the founding fathers of this kind of thing. And you got to go back and look at all that work. Another guy you want to look at is Alex Constantine. Have you looked at his work?
I have not.
Okay, great books, man. You'll love them. Okay, and again, a great researcher with real truth. Way before all this stuff. See you guys today, man. You got these YouTube videos, man. Everybody's throwing up these YouTube videos that comes to all these wild conclusions. But back in the old days, you had people who spent years researching, mind control and assassinations and stuff, and really put their life into it. They weren't just throwing up a YouTube video over a weekend, a week after Sandy Hook, and we've got everything solved. It's a week later, we know, oh, look at this, this guy, sure, there's a lot of stuff that's crap that, this guy, this witness, doing a rehearsal into his iPhone, and that needs to be reported. Well, you can't jump to conclusions every time, an event happens.
No, that's why we as truthers or whatever you want to call us get a bad reputation because we think everything is a conspiracy.
And even the fact that, we don't even know what to call ourselves these days. Well, we're truthers or whatever we are. We're awake and aware. Now, we can't even come together and come to an agree that, hey, man, we're all on the same side fighting this. We are this, they are that. And we can't even get to that point, man. And there's so much infighting between hosts and truthers and stuff like that. And a lot of it is it's right and corrective. There's a lot of people in this business, man. I can tell you for a fact. I could testify in court, okay, with the evidence I have, that they take information that they know is 100% false, as they've been told, they've been shown the proof, and they still report it as if it's reality. Okay, and I've had situations where people have come to me. I've gotten them to confess that they are a hoax. They're hoaxing. Their story is a hoax. Victoria's seen it. She watches me doing this stuff. And then I give that information to other hosts, and these hosts put it on the air anyway. They're, oh, no, we still believe them. The guy's just confessed.
I see the separation of the groups as both a benefit and a downside, because as a benefit, you have multiple fronts to fight on. Like there are groups fighting to get rid of chemtrails. There are groups fighting against Monsanto, and those groups may come together, but at the moment we seem to be stronger divided.
Yeah, I guess that's an optimistic way to look at things. Yeah, that's an optimistic way to look at things. I'm laughing because Victoria's put little notes here, the context box here, the comments box on Skype. Victoria is my
I'm
daughter.
looking
She's
at
the
it
host of a
too.
show called Teen Truth on Saturday afternoon on cjmarsradio.com, and she has a blog called Teen Truth and also a YouTube channel called Teen Truth. But I'm sorry, you were saying?
I for no, I.
Sorry, I tend to wander a bit.
You're
But
fine.
I know what you're saying, man, about the thing about, okay, we're fighting at all different fronts. The Monsanto and then fighting with this other stuff. But it would just, I don't know.
I
Again,
agree it would help if we were united, but uniting, you can't get 20 people into a room together and get them to agree. So how are you going to get thousands? Possibly, I don't know how many people are awake, but the number I'm seeing at least is over 10,000. Um, how are you gonna get over 10,000 people to sit down and agree this is what we're fighting?
you're right, because even you have well-meaning people who can know, they can agree with you and me about Monsanto. They can agree with you and me about uh, what was the other one we kept saying about Monsanto?
Chemtrails.
Yeah, chemtrails. And they can agree about that. They can agree about the assassinations, right? And they can agree about a lot of this stuff. And then you'll have that same person say, oh, and the problem is Obama, because he's a socialist, and he's trying to
Hmm.
destroy this country from within.
And that's
And
where they lose me.
yeah, tell me about it, man. You know, eh, they've got us so programmed. Like look at the national elections. You got Romney and Obama.
Two sides of the same coin.
The same policy, exact same policy. What would Romney had his health care plan was the same as Obama. All this stuff. With
They,
George Bush, Gitmo's still there. We haven't gotten out any of these
yeah,
wars. We're still everything's exactly the same.
you know,
100% the same.
Romney and Obama.
Yeah,
Let's look at some of their policies. More war, more surveillance, more loss of freedom, different economic plan, same healthcare. So far, out of the six I've mentioned, I've only found one difference. They agree on all the structural issues.
right. So then, how is it then? Let me ask you, how is it that 49% will be rabidly anti-Obama and 51% rabidly anti-Romney, and fighting? You saw the wars on Facebook, friendships, families destroyed, fighting over these two, and everybody reciting. Their whole fight is reciting word for word from memory the talking points that were just on Fox News and CNN the night before. Now everybody's an expert on. Oh, everybody's reciting the same mother freaking talking points. Oh, like they're parrots, you know. But everybody and the same policy, same exact policy.
I I was pulling. Might sound a little sad. I was pulling for Paul in 2012.
Yeah, so were we. Victoria was too. But then again, you got to look at this. It looks like he made a deal. They definitely silenced him, man. The guy won every debate, and you can't deny that in public.
He absolutely won. He
Even
crushed
at the
him.
Republican convention, when he walked in, the whole place roared. You know, uh, not like for anybody else. And then they wouldn't even let him count his votes at most at the count there at the
I think that Paul could have been good, but I also believe that there was a strong possibility that he was controlled opposition.
Well, there's some. Yeah, I agree with you. And there's some kind of deal was made to bring his son into this height of the Republican Party, and now he's pretty much reciting the same pro-Israel, stuff as the APAC and all this kind of crap. He's the same. He's the same guy. He's a robot. He's the same as them. He's
Yeah.
not Ron Paul. He just got the same last name.
No, he is no Ron Paul, but
No.
he's probably the most likely. He's probably the least of all the evils. in the
No,
two
you think
parties.
so? I don't
In
see
the
any difference at all, and I think I'm a little more scared. Like when they put Obama in there, because the liberals and people who are left leaning in their brainwashing, you say, "Oh, well, he's not that bad. Oh, look at him, he's kind of cool. He's saying the right stuff. He still got me in handcuffs behind my back, bent over the car, but he's kind of one of us." you
well,
know, you know. And I
the
had a guest on my show. You got to listen to this show, man. I had Mark Rudd, who was one of the Weather Underground. He was one of the revolutionaries in the '70s, man. And he comes on now. Somehow, I interviewed a lot of guys that were involved in revolution in the '70s, and usually I interview them after they come out of prison. But Mark Rudd never went to prison for some reason, and he said it was because all their evidence had to be thrown out because it was all collected illegally through COINTELPRO and FBI hijackings and kidnappings and surveillance and stuff like that. But he tells me,
that's
oh yeah,
that
I'm
sounds
a
like
fan of Obama.
that sounds like the FBI to me.
Yeah, right, yeah. And I even said to him, I says, well, Mark, when you were down there with Weather Underground, did you ever look around and say, hey, this guy in the room has to be FBI, he has to be undercover, he has to be some kind of COINTELPRO infiltrator? And he goes, nah, I never noticed one. So in my opinion, if you look around the room and you can't see who the informant is, man, maybe it's because it's you. Okay, maybe you're the one. But
Well,
he comes on my show and he starts saying that he likes Obama. Oh yeah, I'm a liberal now. I like Obama. And you want to know why? Because he's a cool black guy. He's a cool black guy. He actually said that stuff, man. People were flipping out, man. But he said some bizarre stuff on that show, man.
well, I think that you can't dislike Obama or Bush or Reagan or Clinton because they're not the ones making the decisions.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, he's a puppet, And I also, find it hard to believe. You hear a lot of people say, oh, yeah, as soon as they become president, they take him in some back room, and then they show him a video of the Kennedy assassination, But I don't think these people, they don't think they show him that at all. I think they show him, hey, listen, this your portfolio that's going into a blind trust, you do this for us, it's going to be $100 million. You do this for us, it's going to be $10 million. What do you want it to be? Okay, and they're living like kings, man. These guys aren't stupid,
I think both are true. The point of the assassination and the 100 million, 10 million. I think those are both accurate because what are the two biggest motivators? Money and
fear and
death.
greed, yeah.
You get both of them, you have very loyal, obedient talking heads.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Well, don't get discouraged, man. Listen, we have to, if we recognize we have an enemy, we have to work. We have to resist. We have to struggle. We have to fight back. Now, I'm a student of Che Guevara, and I've read the Guerrilla Handbook, Che Guevara's Handbook on Guerrilla Warfare. And by the way, nowadays, kids like you can go on the internet, you can get it for free. You can read this stuff, okay? Now, Che Guevara, one of his principles was that what we have to do in guerrilla warfare is that we have to we take the weapons we have in our little hands, even if it's a rock or a stick, and we take those weapons and we capture the weapons of the oppressing army. Okay, we ambush them, we capture their weapons, and then we use their weapons against them, and we capture their bases. Okay, and it's the same thing like guys like you and me got to do now. We're under oppression right now of the media. It's media brainwashing. It's media manipulation that's got us in this position right now. We have to take our little media, our little radio shows, our little YouTube channels, and we have to use these channels to overthrow and to ambush the oppressors, and then take their media channels and capture greater stations and get on the networks and get on the big radio shows and get on the big TV shows, produce our own documentaries, and then teach the people and awake the people and educate them and get them out of this brainwashing with not new brainwashing, but with truth.
Yeah, I forget who said it, but it holds true, especially now. It's easier to lie than to convince someone they've been lied to.
Oh man, it's so true. And again, getting back to these, so many of these truthers out there, so-called truthers, who just take the easy road and just hype and lie to their audience for ratings and for hype. And I don't know the word I'm looking for, shock value.
Yeah.
Oh, the end of the world is coming. Oh, the end of the world's coming. It's going to be a meteor. oh no, it's gonna be 2012. It's gonna be 2000 Y2K, and all the computers gonna break. Something's gonna happen. It's gonna happen in the future. It's gonna be devastating. The world's gonna end, and we just gotta wait for it to happen. And then we're gonna rise up with our guns and our bunkers and our backyards and our storable food and Geiger counters and all this bull crap, and wait for something to happen. Gotta
Yeah,
stop waiting. We gotta stand up today. We gotta resist today.
that's a horrible mentality to have for these people.
But it's an easy way to get on the radio and hype people up and tell them that there's a meteor coming, the end of the world's coming, and get them all listen. Oh, tune in next week. Okay, we're gonna give you more information about the end of the world. And get their juices flowing. But it's a lot easier to do that than to get the truth out. But why don't we bring Victoria in? You gonna bring Victoria on now?
Yeah, she's been on Skype. She's been listening and I think laughing.
Chomping at the bit. She's coughing. Victoria, you want to introduce yourself?
She's in here.
I think she's on mute.
Yeah, I was forced to be on mute.
We'll take you mute, City.
So, what are your thoughts on what we've been discussing?
No. Can you hear me now, or?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Hi. Okay. Apparently my mute wasn't off the whole time.
No, it wasn't. I could hear you laughing in the background, but I didn't say anything.
So I'm sorry. What did you want me to say?
What were your thoughts on what we were discussing here?
I think you guys have great points that I would never be able to use or say, and I do want to comment on the whole thing about the truthers and how they kind of take the same direction.
Okay.
And it's really with that with any group of people that agree on something, there's always people who are split up and take the same direction every single time. And I think, by pulling the same card each time, we're just going to be known as the crazy people.
That's what we're known as already. We're not going to be able to break that as long as mainstream media has dominance.
Well, of course, yeah.
We're never going to break that because they're always going to call us crazy.
If you notice, the mainstream media doesn't even acknowledge us that we exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you want to keep going or you want me to go?
No, you can go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think so many people think they're going to come after us if we say something on our radio show that's offensive to them, or, we're going to get shot down and killed. But, the reality of it is that, only a fraction of the people here are going to care, When there's so many people watching things like, Honey Boo Boo on TV, or listening to One Direction, for example, no one's going to care, They're not going to care if we're saying something that's true if there's so many people who are following them without a question.
You know what? There is a portion of the public that's very shallow-minded and, and very surface-oriented, and they want simple-minded entertainment, But then, when you're out in the street, though, and you talk to people and you say, oh, yeah, Bush and Obama, they're exactly the same. Street people know this to be true. They know that we're oppressed and we're living under oppression with the police department, shooting their friends and their family. And if you look in these neighborhoods, they don't even cooperate with the police when there's shootings and stuff in their own neighborhoods. They know that this is the enemy and that we're under oppression. But they're not the same type to be listening to these wacky radio shows.
Exactly. But they're not going to do anything either,
Well, yeah, you take that back a little bit, because people in the street, they're more, they used to at least, rise up. When I was in New York City, and the police would have shootings of unarmed, innocent kids like Michael Stewart, or they killed an old woman named Eleanor Bumpers, who was in her apartment, and 6 SWAT team guys went in there and shot this woman, And Michael Stewart, they shot him on the subway tracks because he was writing graffiti on the walls. And another kid named Baez was strangled by New York City police officers when he was playing football in the street, and his football hit the police car, and they got out and they strangled this kid and they killed him. Okay, and in those days, we would rise up. You talk to your friends and your neighbors, and we would take to the streets and we would protest and we would march and we would destroy things.
Like, do you remember the thing that happened with the ice cream man over here?
Yeah, the ice cream truck lady. But now, Victoria, do you want to tell that story? Because even John B. Wells, I spoke about that story on the John B. Wells show when we were talking about police corruption here in Las Vegas with Gordon Martinez and the story about the Millers and all that stuff like that. But now, you want to tell them the story about the ice cream truck lady and her husband?
Of course. So basically, we have this little guy. He's probably, what, 80, 90?
He's a lot younger than he looks, but he looks like he's 90, yeah.
Yeah, he
he's
looks
small,
90.
Yeah.
And he drives around an ice cream truck, and I guess, like, he didn't have insurance or something. Like, his insurance was expired. So the cops pulled him over, and he got the ticket. And then he kept going, you know? So another cop tries to pull him over, and I don't think he doesn't speak English. Am I correct? Or
neither one of them spoke very good English. I think they were Yugoslavian. And he got pulled over and he got a ticket earlier in the day for driving without a registration. And then he got pulled over a second time, and he was trying to explain to the cops, oh, no, look, I already got a ticket. You can't get another ticket, I already got one. You know?
Like, he calls the wife, you know, and she tries to come over and explain the same thing, and they shoot her.
Yeah, in their language, in their culture, there's an expression that says, you know, I would be better off dead than to have to go through this misery of what I'm going through, you know? There's like an expression like that. So she was saying to that, you know, I'd rather be dead, I'd rather be dead. And at one point she even was demonstrating to them, she had a small knife that she had taken out of her ice cream truck, and she was saying, look, I should stab myself, I should kill myself and be dead rather than go through these tickets and tickets and tickets all day long. Mm-hmm. So, but there was a whole line of witnesses, cars that were stopped there at this intersection. Which is right by our house where we grew up, me and Victoria, and who saw
where
at one point. Oh, no, not where you grew up. You were born in that house.
Yeah.
And I spent some of the greatest time of my life in that house. I decorated that house. But anyway. But the thing is that there were witnesses that the woman at one point was down on her knees begging for mercy from these cops, and they shot her and killed her. And also, too, the cops who were involved in shooting her have been involved in many. And there was a whole big investigation, too. And her husband got a settlement from the city.
Yeah, he got enough money to buy a new ice cream truck. Like, he's all pimped out now. And he comes to, I think he comes to my school a lot.
Yeah, he probably does. They had a little route. You used to see him all over the place. They used to go down to that park where you used to go to Sprinkle Park when you were little. They'd be over there. They'd be at the park. No one knows what the
Sprinkle Park is.
No, but you and me know. And on Discovery Park, you know, they would be there. So we used to see them all over the place.
Mm-hmm. I don't know
I think
any.
The point of the story is you don't see anyone protesting about him, you know, or any other shootings anymore.
Right, and it was whitewashed by the review council that they have here. The coroner's review was totally whitewashed. And another man was shot out here, too. Eric Scott was shot at a Costco. He was a West Point graduate, a concealed carry. He had a gun permit. And, and they shot him while his gun was still in his holster. And the whole thing, then they destroyed the video of the whole incident. So, and that, again, no one was brought to justice over that.
Yeah, I don't really know any of these stories.
Well, let me ask a question, Dylan. What other stories have you worked on your radio show? How many shows have you done?
I can't. I don't know off the top of my head. Let me.
Just roughly 20, 50?
15, 20.
Okay, about 15 or 20. Okay, yeah. And what other kinds of guests have you had on, and what other topics have you discussed?
Well, really, the only guests I've had on, I had whistleblower Billy Hayes on, who worked on the HERP facility in Alaska.
Oh, really?
I had Vince Eastwood, the founder of Guerrilla Media, join me to discuss consciousness and how to cope with the fact that your world is not what it seems. Those are really the only guests I've had on. The other people that I have on are really almost regular contributors.
Would
There-
you
And what
guys
kind of
be
top-
interested in you know how you guys mentioned later on how the Disney kids are brainwashed and stuff?
Yeah.
Do you want to go more into that, or do you guys have something else you want to talk about?
We can. I don't know much about that topic, so I'll be
I
learning.
refuse to
of it.
discuss that. No, go ahead, Ben. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
I don't know. If you guys don't want to do it, I won't do it.
No, of course we do. Go ahead.
Okay, because I've kind of looked into Miley Cyrus a lot, because I am sort of a fan, as Dylan knows, and says that my credibility is down because of it. But I don't think, for her, she was definitely raped, you know, and abused at a young age, and then that's what started all of this. And it seems like, because she started off with the song, it's like, I Can't Be Tamed, you know? And I think that's right when the show ended. No one knows about this?
Well, you know what, Vic? If you look at her story from the very start, to
Yeah.
Hannah Montana, where even in the Hannah Montana TV show, she was two characters. She was Miley and she was
Yeah.
Hannah, right? And then there was a third character of Miley Cyrus, who was, you know, the actress playing these two characters.
Hmm. And it
Now,
never seemed like she had her own personality when she was little.
Right. In MK Ultra mind control and satanic ritual abuse that they do with these victims, it's done to create a alter ego in you. You create a second personality in order to deal with the trauma.
Like
And-
Nicki Minaj.
Right. You see the pattern with all these pop stars and pop celebrities.
Well, it's
I
the
think
culture.
Katy Perry has the same thing, does she not?
Well, when you look at their videos and stuff like that, you see all this Illuminati symbolism, you know, it's just galore. Now, how much of that is fashion and how much of it they are giving tribute to the god that they serve, you know, Satan. You know, how much we don't know. You know, we could just observe and report about what they're doing.
In every one of Katy Perry's videos, she always ends up like on top of everyone. Like, you know, like there's always a scene where she's like rising above everyone.
Really?
I don't really listen to mainstream music, as you know, Victoria, but I know that there's a lot of symbolism. The one eye, the pyramid.
Which was in Katy Perry's recent music video. The
The head
Yeah.
of
the little picture, like for the YouTube video, is literally she's holding up this little like eye thing on top of her eye.
There's also a goat head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe a lion is symbol of the occult.
Forgot also I think it's the rising sun and also the moon.
Yeah. There's these symbols go back, you know, thousands of years. You know, they've been used.
Well, the sun and moon, I say let that slide because it's,
Well, the rising sun,
it's
like not just a regular sun. It's like when it's rising like above something. Like basically there'll be like two pyramids, and then the sun will be like.
rising above a horizon.
Mm.
I'll let that one slide because that's the sun. I mean, but with the pyramid and the eye and the goat, there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on with that.
Have any of you guys watched Teen Wolf?
No, my friend likes it, but I
It's
hate
everywhere in that show.
it. Hate it.
Like everything's about like spells and all this like stuff. You know Sienna Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, she watches it. So I watched like the first 2 seasons, and it's everywhere.
Well, you know, like when I was your guys' age, when I was a kid, it would be unheard of to have that kind of stuff on TV. You know, it's just unheard of. And now it's just like second nature. And it started even in the cartoons when I was a kid, that they would have all this satanic symbolism and stuff like that in the cartoons.
The one eye and the pyramid are typically the most common.
Yeah.
The goat head you see a lot.
Mm-hmm. I think, like you guys mentioned last time, there's always like a death in the beginning of Disney movies, kind of thing.
Not always.
Yeah.
Well, not always, you know.
Almost always. Check it out.
Almost always, there's no parents.
Almost always there's no parents. I will agree
Right.
with that. I think
Which, isn't that kind of weird?
I think the creative heads over at Disney had some parenting issues.
Well, if you go back to Walt Disney, you know, he had connections with all the occult, Nazism, Nazi mind control. You know, those Operation Paperclip guys did work with Disney.
Oh yeah.
You know. Oh yeah, you gotta look into all that stuff, man.
We can
And when you go to Disneyland too,
Oh yeah.
oh my goodness, you know that ride, that runaway train we like so much.
Oh yeah. Do you remember? Okay. Oh, what's it called? You know the one with the characters inside of it?
It's a Small World.
No. The other one. It's the roller coaster with all the characters in it.
Yeah, right. Oh, those are real human bones in there.
Okay, yeah. Can I talk about that for a couple seconds?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's so basically you go into it and it's all nice in the beginning, and then I think you'll remember this one, Dad.
Yeah, I
and
know.
then you go
yeah.
down and it's all dark and like and there's like a bunch of lights, and then I think
Splash Mountain.
Yeah, Splash Mountain. And then you get to you know what, I'm thinking of the one you're talking about.
No, but just stop and think. You go through this ride, it gets all dark, then it gets really scary and creepy and stuff like that. And then what do? They shock you with that long drop down at the end, right? And then you come out, everybody's laughing. Ah, ha, 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 ha.
Like, oh my God, this was so much fun.
Yeah, the whole thing from beginning to end is, again, it's a trauma-based mind control where they scare you, then they give you a shock trauma to your body and your senses, and then you come out, la 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 la.
I think, too,
know?
every time we've been on that ride, I've always gotten scared in the middle. You know, like, it's not the kind of thing where you can just stop and be like, oh, hey, yeah, this is so cool. Like, it's actually, like, a traumatizing thing.
Yeah.
Because they go in there and you can see, like, the bear is getting killed, the innocent bear, you know.
Huh.
And, like, the
Dark.
rabbit's, like, laughing his head off.
Dark.
It is. There's a lot of darkness in there. And the Pirates of the Caribbean, there's a place where they have real human bones in there.
Yeah, they thought, like, it wasn't, like, it
the
wasn't
fake bones
real
didn't look
enough
real
to
enough,
have
so they
fake
got real
bones, so
bones.
they, like, got real ones.
Is it wrong that I really like those movies, except for 2 and 3?
Hey, dude, it's the same thing, man. Like we listen to the music, you know, and it's nice music, you know. But if you let yourself be captured by it, then yeah, it's bad. You know, I think there's a gene in certain people that we can't be overly mind controlled and manipulated like a lot of people can be. But even all of us are under programming, and we're subject to it. And I see it even in myself and people I talk to and stuff.
It's very difficult to break out, nearly impossible to break out of it. I mean,
even if you're aware of it, yeah.
We can't even hold it against people because I don't think very many people have been able to break out of it.
I think it's the kind of thing where, like a Christian belief where it's like you don't, like you receive the Holy Spirit and the Holy Spirit gives you like gifts, you know?
Right.
That you really need to have like the Holy Spirit inside of you, and you really need to know the difference between right and wrong, like, you know?
One of the gifts of the Holy Spirit is discernement of spirits and be able to see, you know, evil spirits and discerning which ones are evil and which ones aren't, and you know, and a word of knowledge, and you know all that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought again.
I think too, when it comes to like the people who are orchestrating like the symbolism, like in music at least, you know. You can tell that most of them, it's like, you know, someone's like taking a photo of them and they're like, oh, go do this like cool eye thing, and they have no idea what they're doing, like, you know.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of celebrities are brought into that position because they're easily manipulated. They're not too bright, and they're handled all the way through.
Yeah.
And you see some of these same handlers around different people. You know, I don't want to mention too many names because I don't want to make too many enemies. But I've talked to some of these people.
Go ahead. Go ahead and say names. This show is very used to controversy.
Well, yeah, well, good for you, man. But I don't want people knocking on my door.
We don't like to start too many fights. I think we're in too many battles already.
Yeah, I know, I'm going on here, man.
Don't encourage my dad to do this.
Oh, why not? Controversy's fun.
Not when you have to hear about it.
Hey, I just got a report from my one of my producers, my man in the street up there in Portland, Oregon, Keith Davis, who is an activist, and he actually confronts people in the street with all kinds of stuff. He spotted this guy who was a convicted child molester who was doing like balloon tricks in the street for little kids, and he confronted him on video. And he goes into the Portland City Council hearing meetings all the time and confronts them about how come the police are protecting these kind of people. And one of the videos he did in City Hall there was he mentioned my show and the Opperman Report and stuff like that, and they censored it out of the official record of the City Council hearing. So he's reporting to me now that he got censored and removed from City Hall today. They wouldn't let him speak and had him removed by security. The guys who run the G4S security at the place there are the same people who run the Israeli torture camps. He's telling me.
They've been striking back pretty hard lately. A Facebook group that I'm in, Mass Action Demand,
Yep.
was taken down for a few minutes. It had 8,000 people, and the admins were panicking, kind of.
Yeah, there's always agitation and suppression and trying to stop the information from coming out.
Oh yeah, they hate information. Knowledge is power. I don't understand how people can still defend it.
I don't think, at least in teenagers, I don't think a lot of people are defending what they're doing. I think otherwise making fun of it.
I'll be in
Like-
it.
The Illuminati is kind of more of a joke now than it is a serious issue.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like they're desensitizing kids to it. Where like when I was a kid, you definitely didn't have this kind of exposure. So I can't believe that it's by accident and that they're being exposed without them wanting us to know. And we could come to find out that all these truther radio shows and stuff that we're doing we're just falling right into their hands and giving them their own PR that they want. They want people to know about them.
Well, if we're known as insane, then the PR that they're getting is the same joke that people are doing anyways,
Yeah, I think that the more people know about it, the better, honestly. Because if you tell this to 10 people, one will look it up, probably.
I think the thing is, too, the thing like the pyramid and like the eye and stuff, it's become more of like a hipster symbol than anything.
Just
like,
go, go look at Grand Theft Auto 5 if you want to see symbolism.
Go look at an Instagram page. You see it everywhere.
Oh, I know. But I mean, I'm talking about in entertainment. It's everywhere. You can't escape it.
Mm.
I mean, I asked somebody when I was new to this, is it okay for me to like these movies now that I know what the symbolism is? And I'm still gonna enjoy them. I'm still gonna watch them. Because entertainment is entertainment. You just gotta know what's in them.
But I think it's the thing where if there's too much symbolism, like I'm a massive hypocrite because I'm saying this while I love Taylor Swift and I love One Direction, but I'm saying this.
I know.
I think if there's too much symbolism and too many signs of it being an evil thing, then you shouldn't watch it.
Well, you know what? Like my guest Dave McGowan, he's written these books about weird scenes inside the canyon, about how the whole protest and anti-war movement and all the music and all the culture was all sponsored by the government and by CIA. It was all a psyop, So to say that, okay, well, I'm not going to listen to Taylor Swift because that's brainwashing, But here we have this guy's theory, and there's a lot of weight to it, man. And his theory is that even the anti-war music was all a psyop brainwash.
Well, you know, the same theory of I'm not gonna listen to Taylor Swift because you know she has too much Illuminati would be the same theory that Pastor Mike was trying to impress on me.
Right, but not listening to One Direction, yeah.
He said I shouldn't listen to One Direction because I'm putting them as like a #1 priority against like God, and I should only be listening to Christian music.
Well, entertainment is entertainment. I mean, I know you are completely against it, but I still love Lord of the Rings, even though I know the symbolism in that.
Hey, Dad, would you like to get into who the director of The Hobbit is and what he's doing with the money he gets?
Oh,
Yeah.
I know what he's doing, but
Well, do you know about the whole story about the West Memphis 3?
very little.
Okay,
But I mean,
well,
I
these guys, you know, Satanists, you know, back in the mid-'90s, they killed 3 little boys down in West Memphis, Arkansas. They brutalized them, raped them, and molested them, and then killed them in a satanic ritual. And then a whole bunch of documentaries were done trying to say that, hey, maybe these guys didn't do it, maybe they were innocent, and a whole big fundraising thing went on.
And at first, my father believed this.
Oh yeah, at first I fell for it too until I did a little research, and then you found out that these guys were guilty. It was obvious.
Mhm.
And but this guy from The Hobbit donated. We don't even know how much, but we know it was a huge amount of money to their defense fund and to their awareness fund. And finally, they got these guys out of prison because they were convicted. They confessed, you know. And he got them out of prison because basically they overwhelmed the local prosecutor's office down there in West Memphis, Arkansas. Now, since this guy's gotten out, the leader of this cult down there, this guy Damien Eccles, he has totally come out right in your face with all his occult involvement and satanic involvement and stuff like that. So it's, you know, it can't be an accident, man. You know, someone like the guy's taking his Hobbit money and getting his devil worshiper out of prison. You know, this guy's confessed to killing 3 kids.
by going,
And that's really the only reason why I won't watch things
maybe
like you want me to watch.
maybe I can ease that because seeing his movies do not pay him. He gets paid regardless of whether you see it or not. The studio gets paid. The studio makes the money. The director has a set amount of money that he gets when he's brought onto the project. And
yeah, but they wouldn't hire him for another project if his past movie wasn't making money.
Plus, the thing is, too, you know, if you're supporting The Hobbit and, like, you're buying merchandise, I'm sure, you know, that goes into his check, you know? If people weren't interested in the movie, he wouldn't have gotten paid the amount of money he got paid.
Well, actually, he probably would have because of the set amount that he gets on his contract.
No, I mean, if people weren't so interested in The Hobbit becoming a movie, you know.
Oh, well.
So I'm guessing they're books.
Yeah, The Hobbit is one book.
Yeah. So if people weren't so interested in it becoming a movie, he probably wouldn't have gotten paid the, you know, huge amount that he got paid.
I think he didn't get paid that much. I mean, in Hollywood.
You guys are billionaire.
Yeah, he's
you guys loaded.
Peter Jackson? Are you sure about that?
Positive.
Positive, man. Yeah, he's giving away millions just to this stupid thing here with this defense fund.
Well,
you know.
If you have enough money to pay for a false defense fund, I think you have enough to live life grandly.
Well, I go to see a movie because of the talent of the director or the talent of the writer or even the talent of the actor. Everyone, if people in the movie have talent, I believe as a film critic and that I should at least give them a shot with their new film because if they do a good job, then I believe they deserve a chance.
Well, you can do that by watching it illegally or, you know, instead of going to the theater.
I guess I wanted the whole, with The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and all these blockbusters, I want the full experience. You can't get
The full experience.
3D.
You know what? Get some 3D glasses and pretend like it's 3D.
Okay.
Get some popcorn, because I know you have popcorn over there.
Oh, I do. I eat popcorn every day.
And there you go. Get some popcorn. Sit down. Get like an over sized cup and fill it with soda. And there you go.
I'll even charge you $15 for the popcorn.
You know what? You can pay us for the popcorn.
Yeah.
You know what? You can go put it in. Dad, what's the name of the website where we're putting up the campaign for the audio?
Oh, GoFundMe account?
Hey, you can go put in the GoFundMe account. It's what's it called?
Yeah, if you go to GoFundMe.com and search for the Opperman Report Studio Fund, me and Victoria, we have a studio fund and we're trying to get donations to help us build a full-blown. Actually, the real goal is to actually get a video as well. And we could have like a slave camera here so that, when those guys go on Dr. Drew
you can
each
see
night.
our beautiful faces. That's what it's for.
That we can get booked on those kind of shows, because I've done Dr. Drew a couple of times, and we can get on those shows to comment on different topics and get more truth out there in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other reason I watch all this is I want to be a film writer. I want to create films. So what better way to create films than to learn from some of the greatest storytellers out there? Whatever you think of Jackson, otherwise, he's one of the best storytellers out there. In the film world, at least, on the silver screen. He's one of the strongest storytellers in the fantasy world. Lord of the Rings Return of the King swept the Oscars.
I think, I know you opposed to this because you did not like the Divergent movie, but if you want a fantasy kind of thing, you should go to her, Veronica Roth, because she did write her book off of her Christian views.
I'll check her out, but I mean, Peter Jackson didn't write Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. Tolkien did in the 50s. Or the 40s. He wrote that during World War II. But,
Plus, too, she's very humble. You don't see her donating to killers.
Besides, Peter Jackson probably won't get very many more jobs after this next Hobbit movie, because it's the last movie in the realm of in Middle Earth. I don't know. You know I'm a film nerd to the core.
Of course. Dylan was actually thinking of, you were thinking of doing a review kind of podcast kind of thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Movie review and TV show review podcast. I only watch one TV show. But...
What TV show do you watch?
Game of Thrones.
What is it?
Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay, into that stuff. And do you have a blog, Dylan?
I'm on a website, but I don't have a personal blog, but I'm on a film and gaming news and review site.
Where he rants about Nintendo.
I've only ranted about Nintendo once.
In all caps.
No, they weren't in all caps. It was one paragraph and an even bigger
It was
rant.
not one paragraph.
Did you read the article?
One of the things you could do is, if you have a blog, then you could post all your videos on that blog as well, and also little articles and commentaries and stuff, and then you post a link to that blog up on your Facebook, and you build like a community of people who follow, your writing and your content and your movie reviews, and you can even get AdSense. You can open up an AdSense account on the blog and make some money from when people watch your videos and stuff, as well. Also, too, what you can do is when you do these videos, right? Like, let's say the topic is about vaccines, you can go on other YouTube videos and post the link to your YouTube in the comments section, so people that are watching and interested in that topic will see your videos and go watch yours as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna have to start working on that.
We're very good at self-promotion, so if you have any questions,
Well, I can tell if you're aiming to get as many people listening to your show as you say you can get. That I could
Yeah.
tell you're very good at advertising.
But I'm very, very impressed with the way she's been marketing her show and how she's bringing on guests who have a big following as well, you know? And I think she's going to get a lot of traffic.
Well,
Yeah,
that's a
I
good
wasn't
thing.
the one who made up the 40,000. It was my dad.
Yeah.
So I'm not sitting here making up false numbers.
Well, sorry to say, I'm probably the only guest that won't bring a huge following. I'll bring 2 or 3, but
That's why we got to build you up too, man.
Yeah. If you're gonna be friends with us,
Yeah. By the way, if anybody's listening to this right now live on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to Dylan's YouTube channel, so that because once he gets enough subscribers, there's other features that he can use on YouTube. That once you start reaching like a couple of hundred subscribers. So
yeah, once I reach 100 subscribers, I can download some software that'll give me stuff like call-in lines, breaks where I can just put music in. Because doing 2 hours straight is challenging sometimes.
it's hard listening to you guys for 2 hours straight.
I've tried to listen to some of my shows for 2 hours. Sometimes I can't do it, so I don't know
I
how
think
other
this is
people
probably the
do
first
it.
time you ever listened to one of my interviews, right?
It is.
And what do you think? Am I any good or what?
You're great.
Yeah.
You're definitely right about us having the same style.
I know.
I ripped you off. I ripped everything off from you.
That's okay.
But what I just remembered that you had asked me a question that I actually never answered. What topics do we discuss?
Yeah.
Really, in general, all we do on this show is we look at different events and we break them down and we find the truth about them. Like, let's do it quick. I'm just gonna check out what I've got here.
You can use the example of your 9/11 video.
Yeah, the death of Bin Laden, 9/11, Fukushima, JFK, chemtrails, HARP. We've done a lot of different topics, and I do enjoy discussing all these different conspiracies because people need to know the truth. It's horrible that they can get away with this.
It's funny you mentioned Bin Laden. The death of Osama bin Laden.
The quote-unquote death.
Yeah, because well, I'll tell you this. It's interesting, okay? Because I do cell phone forensics, right? And the guys who wrote this software to take cell phones and recover deleted data out of the phones and to create images and create a report from the data in a cell phone were the same guys who were in Afghanistan in 2000, 2001, 2002 looking for bin Laden, to locate bin Laden. And they were the guys that had cloned his satellite phones. And but they were discharged from this assignment, and they were civilians working for the government, civilian contractors, and they had developed this software to clone phones and to do all this stuff with phones. But they were dismissed from this job, supposedly looking after bin Laden, in around 2002, 2003, and sent back to the United States, where they went into private practice and sold this software. And that's how I got involved with them. We started using it for infidelity cases and legal cases and stuff like that. But it's interesting that these guys, okay, they're working for these 3-letter agencies, out there in Afghanistan, looking for bin Laden, okay, but they were sent back, and the job to look for bin Laden was over around 2002. They were no longer had to look for bin Laden, okay. Now, a lot of people say, well, bin Laden, he's a CIA creation, he's CIA and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, these guys, and I know these guys, they know CIA at the highest levels, like directors, and yet still they were out there looking for bin Laden. So, go ahead.
I 100% believe that he was CIA. Ronald Reagan said he was CIA. Everyone says he was CIA.
Yeah, during the original, obviously then he was working for the CIA, but is he still a CIA today? And how much of Al Qaeda?
He's dead today.
Well, we don't know that really.
There were reports out in after the death of Bin Laden, after the quote-unquote death of Bin Laden, that he had died in a hospital in Dubai in November 2001.
Yeah, I've heard those stories too.
And honestly, I kind of believe those stories. They seem pretty credible.
Well, yeah, again, but then again, I can tell you that firsthand. I have firsthand experience from people that were still looking for him in 2001. Who worked for the CIA. Now, so are there factions within the CIA where some of them know about this and some of them don't? And they have one part of the CIA is looking for Bin Laden, the other part of the CIA is hiding Bin Laden, or what? Again, this is just information I just want to get out there and report. But I know firsthand guys that were looking for him, and then firsthand these guys knew the director of the CIA.
You can be sent out on wild goose chases.
Of course.
I mean, I think he died in 2001, but
Or he could still be alive today.
He could be.
You never know.
But the guy had kidney failure. He was on dialysis.
Well, again, that's just a report. How do we really know that's true either?
Mm-hmm. The thing is, too, is he was so good at hiding for all this time that we couldn't find him,
Oh, that's the other part that
Apparently.
confuses me. How can a guy who we've acknowledged has kidney failure, that's completely 100% fact at this point. There's plenty of reports, there's doctors who have confirmed it, doctors from the hospital in Dubai that treated him, reports from Harvard doctors. All these people have confirmed that he had kidney failure and that he was on dialysis before September 11th.
No, yeah, I'm familiar with those stories, yeah.
But
and even that he was visited by the CIA visited him at the hospital and stuff like that. But again, we don't know. Like he could have got a transplant or something. Like who knows? We don't know.
that's true.
But
I'm sure you can fake documents too.
Right, and fake witnesses and all this stuff. So we really don't know 100%. But here I got some guys who I do know personally that I kind of trust what they tell me.
Well,
but the other thing too is that this whole fiction of Bin Laden and how Bin Laden was a rich guy, man. Adnan Khashoggi testified that he was at one time the world's richest man. He was an arms dealer. He was a drug smuggler. And he was involved in Iran-Contra again. He was on the TV show Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous almost every single week. They had a bit about him. And by the way, too, Adnan Khashoggi, when he had his yacht in New York City, it was the largest yacht in the world. The people who partied on that yacht were Geraldo Rivera and Ann Coulter and Michael Jackson and Elizabeth Taylor. And all these guys, Donald Trump, were all partying on there with Adnan Khashoggi on his yacht. And later on, he comes out and he testifies in court that he was donating 10% of all his arms dealing money to Bin Laden and his group, and Al Qaeda and what they were doing. So here you got guys like Ann Coulter, when meanwhile she was partying with the guy who funded Bin Laden. If you want to believe that whole story, that Bin Laden was behind 9/11, he's a Muslim terrorist, and all that kind of stuff. So it's just so the whole thing can get just so convoluted that one thing I've found in investigating cases is that the information that you have from your closest sources, who are the most trusted to you, and are the most recent information, that's usually the most accurate. When you start getting further and further out about reports from Dubai and reports from Pakistan and reports from here and reports from there, the further away these reports get, the more likelihood they are to be inaccurate, and there's inaccurate information out there, or disinfo. Or even, too, hey, we could have a situation with these guys who I know personally. The reason why they got in with me and know me is to feed me this info. Who knows? We don't know. But we can only just take the information we have and report it,
Yeah, we're going to have to do a part 2.
There's something going on.
Yeah, we're going to have to. I've got, is there any way we can do another show Friday?
Nah, Friday I do my show, and I got John B. Wells coming up too. So, but
Oh yeah,
we could
Friday
do
is
something.
Media Day, isn't it? Whatever you
Yeah, used to be. Yeah, now we got so much other stuff going on.
I know, right?
Never ends.
Could I guest on your show one of these times?
Yeah, I'd like to have you on. And we could do something with you, me, and Vic. We could do a show sometime. And
Oh my God, you're letting
also-
me on your show?
yeah. Well, now that you're a professional, yeah. You know. Listen, I would love to do more live shows every week. Do several shows a week. We need sponsors, man. We need people to
Yeah,
come.
we need sponsors.
Yeah, and I got over 1 million people listening to my show, man. And the YouTube channel repeats over and over and over again. We get thousands of visits every month. It's a real, coverage, that people can get value for their sponsor. We'll read your ads. Pacific West Bamboo is one of our great sponsors. Eco-friendly bamboo recycled products.
Yeah. We take our sponsors, very seriously. Like, even
Yeah.
with Bamboo Lady, we're gonna go out and sell her products,
Right.
on the streets, So, if you're our sponsor, we take you in as like family, and we self-promote everywhere.
Right. And I can't urge you enough, if you're listening to this, that if we could just get sponsors, we can put on live content 7 nights a week. I'll do it, man. I'll talk forever. I don't care.
Yeah.
But we
He
gotta
doesn't
fund this.
shut up at
Yeah,
home,
we can't.
okay?
We can't fund this out of our pockets.
I know where. Now I know where you get it from, Victoria.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, it would be fun to come on your show.
It would be, and I'd love to have you, and I'll hook you up with some really good, interesting guests that would love to come on your show too.
I was just telling him about Douglas Dietrich.
Doug Dietrich is a good guy too, man. You should call in this. Call into a show on Saturday Night Fire Lines.
You know what, Dylan? Do you want us? Maybe both of us can call into a show if you'd like.
Ed's show?
No, Douglas.
Oh, yeah.
Is he? What day is it? It's Monday nights. Dad?
We lost him. I don't know. I think
Okay,
we lost him.
I think it's Tuesday nights or something. He has this thing where everyone can call in and he'll give
what's that, Doug Dietrich?
Yeah.
Douglas Dietrich Firing Lines is on Saturday night, 7 p.m. on freedomslips.com.
Is that the one where you can call in?
Yep,
Fun
and you
show?
can Skype in. You can go to Freedom Screen and send him a friend request on Skype, and you could Skype in, and he'll take your call. And he would love to talk to you guys if you both called in at the same time. You'd be on those roundtables. You can call on those Revolution Radio roundtables and straighten those guys out because they're putting out a lot of crap on there.
Well, one of those roundtables were just talking about me, and I was very surprised that they would even mention us anymore.
We love everybody.
I was on a live.
We love everyone.
I was on a live a roundtable last weekend on UCY.
Was that the one I was listening to?
Yeah.
Yeah, he totally slayed all of them. Like,
Good. Good, straighten these guys out.
Nah, they're smarter than me on most things. On probably all things.
From the couple minutes that I was listening to, you definitely proved all of them wrong, and it was excellent.
Yeah, I would like to call into your show, and I'll be doing a show next Wednesday with famous whistleblower Jim Garrow.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
That's the same guy who's going to be on Mass Action Demand?
No, not that guy.
No? Okay.
We weren't supposed to say that yet.
Oops.
It was supposed to be a surprise for Sylvain's mad viewers.
Okay. You can just pretend that never happened. I meant an actual person who whistles.
No one's gonna. Okay.
I don't know. Sorry.
It doesn't matter at this point. At this point, nobody who listens to Sylvain's show, except for probably Sylvain and Stonely, are listening at this point.
I don't know. By the time this gets released and people listen to it, his will be released also. So.
This one automatically uploads to the archives. It should be up in a couple hours.
And then, when are we doing his show? If I'm still allowed on, because I just did that.
8 o'clock. You will be. I'm pretty confident you'll be allowed back on.
Okay, so that's 5 o'clock for me. Okay.
Yeah, we'll be on his show, and My dog is over there at the door and I can't go get her.
He wants to fight.
I think my dad is missing his Sharpie impressions.
Hold on, I'll be back. I'm just gonna call my dog over to her bed.
Okay, we'll talk.
Me and Vic will talk.
We are back. I apologize, but so I forget what we were talking about.
Oh, we're talking about trying to get sponsors, to promote all this stuff and so we can get the truth out there. And I think it's really important that people step up to the plate and then help support this kind of stuff rather than just a few people paying out of their own pockets to get all this info out there.
Like the bamboo lady. Would you like to give people her information?
I don't have it in front of me, but it's Pacific West Bamboo in Oregon up there. If you need bamboo, just Google that.
Mm-hmm.
So Vic, who's coming up? Oh, I got a big show coming up this Friday night. I have a guest who's going to be reporting stuff about the Casey Anthony trial.
Someone took my suggestion.
Yeah, we do a lot of Top Mom. We do a lot of true crime stuff, and PIs and criminal investigators and
Oh
things.
my god,
like
are you going to talk about Salt Mom?
No, we're not going to talk about Salt Mom.
But I'll also be having a pretty big guest on next Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern Time.
Who's that?
Jim Garrow. He's a whistleblower from one of the alphabet agencies. He didn't specify.
And what's his name?
Jim Garrow.
I'm not really going to have anyone really huge in the next couple months, but I do need everyone to go on. I think her name is ePeach on Instagram. I need you to go bug the hell out of her to go on my show.
You still haven't figured that out yet? I'd give it up, honestly. It's not worth it.
I'm not giving up on her.
So Vic, who's your guest coming up this Saturday?
My guest coming up this Sunday. Oh, Saturday? Oh, okay. We're gonna have she likes to say anonymous, but her name's Ash, and we're going to be talking about After. It's a fan fiction that's very abusive.
That's how you
And
did that
we're also
one.
going to be talking about the like how to know if there's emotional or physical abuse in a relationship and how to get out of it.
Yeah, I listened to the interview as it was live. Fascinating, very very well done, and all information about abusive relationships and how to get out of them and stay out of them, avoid them.
Mm.
But I forget what I was gonna say again. Are we done?
There's a lot of echo and feedback.
Victoria.
It's really bad. No,
I'm
it's
not even
Victoria.
speaking.
Yeah, I
No.
don't think it's Victoria. But I gotta get going anyway, so I'll let you guys finish up. And thanks for having me on, Dylan.
Thanks for coming on. Can we do it again sometime?
Yeah, sure we can. And Victoria, thanks for being my daughter.
Love
And thanks for
you.
being the host of Teen Truth on Saturday afternoons on
Teen Truth Radio, CJMarsRadio.com.
And I love you, sweetie. I love you with all my heart. You're the best daughter in the whole world. Okay, thank you for
Best
everything.
dad in the whole world.
I know. And Dylan, you're the best friend in the whole world.
Best pal.
There you go. And all right, guys, I'm taking off. Okay, but thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye, Dad.
All right, so
now you're back with the person who has the echo.
yeah, I don't hear the echo anymore. I think it was your dad.
Ooh. I don't think so. He has a mic and stuff.
So do I.
Oh, do you? You got a mic?
Yeah, that's why I was thinking the echo was on your end. Because I know you don't have one at your mom's house.
And that's why we need you to go on the GoFundMe account. And get me a mic.
You guys really are good at self-promotion. You need to teach me.
Yeah, we are. That's I called up Douglas Dietrich's show. I think this coming up this Sunday or Saturday that just passed, and self-promoted.
Good job. So
do you have anything else you want to talk about, or should we get heading? Because I think we only have.
I have another 2 hours till
Yeah.
Sylvain's show, and then
2 hours.
and then I've got somebody on my Skype right now, Vince Eastwood, who wants to do a show, but he wants to do one right now. But
Would you like me to leave? You can end this show and then start his.
I'm actually gonna take a break. I'm gonna get out of this chair. I'm gonna eat something, and then I'll do his. I'm only gonna do a little bit though. I'm gonna have him back on another time.
Yeah.
But do you want to join me for that?
Vin Eastwood. When is it gonna be? Not today, right?
Today, yeah, in like a half hour.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he messaged me during the show and asked if I could do one now.
I think I may have to go get something to eat.
Yeah, probably. Vince, if you're listening to the show, I will be on with you at 6:30.
6:30. Okay, so that's gonna be 3:30 my time.
Yeah, and we'll discuss a little bit. Facebook me or Skype me the topic you want to discuss. Otherwise, you've been listening to The Truth Speaks, and if you want to listen to my next show, you can subscribe or just follow the channel for the next half hour and
just subscribe. It's easier.
Yeah, subscribe.
Subscribe. Don't follow the channel. Subscribe. See, this is where you get your bad promoting from.
Hey, cut me some slack. This is
follow the channel. You subscribe. Okay, if you're listening to this right now, you're gonna love this kid. Okay, you gotta subscribe.
And you're probably going to end up joining me for a lot because I can't promote for my life.
Yep. And before you go, I just want to say you can check me out. It's Teen Truth Radio, CJMarsRadio.com, Saturdays at 1 p.m. 365 Live, Spreaker, YouTube, SoundCloud. I'm good. And, I'm sorry, teentruthradio.blogger.com.
And you have been listening to The Truth Speaks. We are signing out.